Alright, so let's talk about one of the most satisfying ways to play Marvel Rivals, the poke composition. If you're the type of player who loves keeping enemies at a distance while chipping away at their health, this playstyle is absolutely for you. Poke comps are all about long-range pressure, using snipers, hit-scan heroes, and ability spam to slowly break down the other team's defenses. You're not rushing in head first, you're forcing the enemy to make mistakes while you stay safe and in control. And the beauty of poke comps is how they set up the perfect moment to strike. Once you've whittled down the enemy team and picked off a straggler, that's when you push in and finish the job. It's less about brute force and more about patience, timing, and precision. In this video, we're going to break down the best poke compositions in Marvel Rivals, so you'll know exactly which heroes to lock in if you want to dominate from a distance. I'm quickly moving on to the video.
Very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel.
Types of list videos,
please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos.
Enjoy watching.
Thanks.
Alright, so let us break down one of the best poke compositions you can run in Marvel Rivals. This setup is called Shield and Shoot, and honestly, the name tells you exactly what is going on. You have a front line with Magneto and Doctor Strange, both of whom can throw up shields to protect the team, while also dishing out some reliable mid-range damage. The idea here is not to rush in, but to keep the enemy at a distance while you slowly wear them down. Right behind them, you have your duelists, the Punisher and the Winter Soldier. These two are excellent at picking off enemies from a safe distance. If your front line is holding strong, the duelists can line up their shots and force the enemy into really tough positions. Whenever an opponent gets chipped down just a little too much, that is when these duelists shine, securing the elimination and opening up space for your team to push forward without taking unnecessary risks. Then we get to the strategists, Rocket Raccoon and Luna Snow. These two provide a mix of utility and sustain that really makes the composition come together. Rocket Raccoon brings long-range firepower and disruptive tools, while Luna Snow adds that crucial healing to keep everyone alive during the poke war. When all of these pieces are working together, Shield and Shoot becomes incredibly frustrating to play against because your opponents are constantly pressured, constantly blocked off, and constantly losing ground without ever really finding a good opening. Let's talk about the Gamma Charge composition, which is an absolute powerhouse in Marvel Rivals. At the front, you have Doctor Strange and the Hulk acting as your vanguards. Doctor Strange brings that mid-range poke and crowd control, while the Hulk is just a walking wrecking ball who can soak up damage like nobody's business. Together, they set up the perfect front line for your duelists to operate safely behind them. Speaking of duelists, Iron Man and Hawkeye really shine in this setup. Iron Man, when positioned correctly, can output insane poke damage, making it hard for anyone to get close. Add Hawkeye into the mix, and suddenly, the enemy backline strategists are in constant danger. Every move they make has to be calculated, because one wrong step and they could be taken out before they even know what hit them. Then you have your strategists, Luna Snow and Invisible Woman, rounding out the team with support and utility. Luna Snow's idle aura can focus healing on your front line, keeping Doctor Strange and the Hulk in the fight longer, while Invisible Woman uses her shields to protect Hawkeye and control the battlefield. The trick is to make sure you don't block Hawkeye's line of sight with too many shields. If you do that, all the poke potential in the world won't matter. When everything clicks, Gamma Charged becomes a nightmare for anyone trying to face it head on. Let's dive into the Asgardian Rivals composition, which is perfect for anyone who loves a mix of poke and tactical plays. At the front line, you've got Thor holding the space. He isn't your traditional poke hero, but he excels at creating room for your duelists to operate. Once Hela or Storm gets a pick, Thor can move in and dominate the space, making it really hard for enemies to counter your team. Hela and Storm, the duelists, are the real stars of this composition. Hela is a fantastic poke hero and really makes the Asgardian team-up ability shine, while Storm pairs perfectly with Thor to create constant pressure on the enemy. Their long-range attacks allow you to chip away at the opponent before they even get a chance to react, giving your team a huge advantage in controlling the battlefield. Then we've got the strategists, Loki, Cloak and Dagger, and Mantis. Mantis can play offensively to back up Thor, while Cloak and Dagger helps keep an eye on tricky flying enemies like Hela and Storm. Loki brings his regeneration pads to sustain Thor and keep him in the fight longer. When all these pieces come together, Asgardian Rivals becomes a well-rounded, hard-to-break poke composition that can really frustrate the opposing team. Let's break down the Parker on defense composition, which is perfect if you're looking to hold down a point like a pro in Marvel Rivals. At the front line, you have Penny Parker, and her bionic spider nest is a total game changer. By placing the nest in a hard-to-reach spot, you can make sure she can defend the area almost solo, forcing the enemy to think twice before trying to push. Behind her, you've got Hela and Moon Knight as your duelists. These two can take off angles and surprise the enemy team, while Penny focuses on holding the main position. Their long-range attacks and poke abilities make it hard for anyone to get close without taking significant damage, which gives your team a big defensive edge. Rounding out the squad, the strategists Cloak and Dagger, Loki, and Luna Snow provide crucial support. Cloak and Dagger helps control enemy bombardment, Luna Snow adds healing to keep your front line up longer, and Loki's regeneration pads ensure Penny can stay in her nest even under heavy pressure. Put all of these pieces together and Parker on defense becomes a nightmare for anyone trying to take control of the point. Let's break down the Icy Mutants composition, which is a really fun setup for Marvel Rivals if you like, combining mid-range pressure with strong poke potential. Up front, you've got Magneto and Groot as your vanguards. While they aren't traditional poke heroes, they can hold the line effectively, and with Scarlet Witch's team-up ability, Magneto's melee and mid-range attacks become even deadlier. Once your duelists start securing picks, these two can push forward and really take control of the map. Speaking of duelists, Namor and Scarlet Witch are the stars here. Namor can pick off enemies from afar with his Monstro Spawn and Trident, especially if he targets backline strategists. That opens the door for Scarlet Witch to play more aggressively and apply even more pressure, letting the whole team capitalize on the openings created by these precise picks. Finally, you have the strategists Luna Snow and Rocket Raccoon, who bring support and utility to the table. Rocket Raccoon's team up with Groot is especially valuable, adding extra damage and disruption when needed. Meanwhile, Luna Snow can keep your team healthy and in the fight longer. When all these elements come together, Icy Mutants becomes a well-rounded poke composition that can dominate both mid-range skirmishes and controlled pushes. Let's talk about the Guardian support composition, which is all about combining aggressive poke with solid support in Marvel Rivals. Up front, you've got Doctor Strange as your vanguard. He isn't just any shield user, he has the biggest shield in the game, which makes him perfect for holding the front line and keeping your duelists safe. If you prefer, you can even swap him for Magneto. Just make sure your vanguard brings some kind of defensive utility to protect the team. Your duelists, Squirrel Girl and the Punisher, are where the damage really starts stacking up. Both can pick off enemies from range, applying constant pressure while your front line absorbs attacks. They're great at punishing opponents who overextend, and when they get the chance to line up shots, the enemy team is in real trouble. Rounding out the squad, you have strategists Adam Warlock, Mantis, and Rocket Raccoon. Adam Warlock and Mantis can play aggressively with poke abilities, while Rocket provides healing and extra support to keep them in the fight. This combination ensures your team stays healthy while dishing out high damage, making Guardian support a powerful and balanced composition that can dominate both skirmishes and longer engagements. Let's dive into the Poke Flyers composition, which is a really fun setup in Marvel Rivals if you enjoy controlling the skies. Up front, you have the Hulk or Thor as your vanguard. They aren't flying, but they provide solid frontline presence and can activate team-up abilities with either Iron Man or Storm, which makes your aerial assault much more effective. The duelists, Human Torch, Iron Man, and Storm make this composition really shine. All three can fly, allowing them to poke and harass enemies from angles that are hard to contest. With the right positioning, they can chip away at the enemy team while staying mostly out of reach, turning the battle into a constant aerial pressure game. Finally, the strategists Invisible Woman and Cloak and Dagger bring crucial support to this setup. Invisible Woman empowers Johnny Storm with shields and defensive boosts, while Cloak and Dagger helps heal your flying duelists and provides aim forgiveness, making it easier for them to land shots in tricky situations. She can also use her bubbles to protect the vanguard on the ground, ensuring your team stays strong from top to bottom. Let's break down the Turrets Galore composition, which is all about maximizing poke damage in Marvel Rivals. Up front, you have Groot and Magneto as your vanguards. They're not just there to soak damage, they also protect your duelists, Namor and the Punisher, giving them the freedom to set up their turrets and deal damage chiefly from a distance. The duelists, Namor and the Punisher, are the stars of this setup. The key is to double up their respective turrets like Namor's Monstro Spawn to control space and force the enemy to react. With careful positioning, these two can deal massive damage before opponents even get close, making it very hard for the other team to mount a successful counterattack. Rounding out the team, Luna Snow and Rocket Raccoon provide crucial support. Rocket's infinite ammo team-up lets your duelists keep firing without pause, while Luna Snow adds healing to sustain the team during prolonged skirmishes. When all these pieces work together, Turrets Galore Shitsai becomes a powerhouse poke composition that can overwhelm opponents simply through sheer firepower. Let's break down the Doctor Strange at range composition, which is all about controlling space and poking from a safe distance in Marvel Rivals. Up front, you have Doctor Strange as your vanguard. His shield and melee abilities aren't just for defense, they're perfect for peeling enemies off your strategists, giving your duelists the room they need to do serious damage. The duelists, Hawkeye and Hela, are the real stars here. Hawkeye might not always be everyone's first pick, but in the right hands, he's a top-tier poke hero. Pair him with Hela and you'll be landing headshots left and right, constantly pressuring the enemy team and making it hard for them to move freely without taking damage. Supporting them, you have strategists Adam Warlock, Invisible Woman, and Luna Snow. Adam Warlock can also land some nasty headshots from range, while Invisible Woman and Luna Snow provide essential healing to keep your duelists in the fight longer. When you combine precise poke with Doctor Strange's defensive utility, Doctor Strange at range becomes a composition that's tough to crack and incredibly satisfying to play. Let's break down the Domination Poke composition, which is perfect for holding objectives on domination maps in Marvel Rivals. Up front, you have Penny Parker and Groot as your vanguards. Penny's psionic spider nest and Groot's sturdy presence make it easy to control key areas early on, especially when you place walls to block off exits and entrances. This gives your team a huge advantage when trying to secure or defend the center of the map. The duelists, the Punisher and Winter Soldier, really capitalize on this setup. The Punisher can set up his turret on high ground, taking full advantage of Rocket Raccoon's infinite ammo team-up, while Winter Soldier can also benefit from the elevated position. Both of them can continuously poke at enemies who try to contest the objective, making it extremely risky for opponents to approach. Rounding out the team, Invisible Woman adds utility and crowd control. Her psychic pull can reposition enemies, forcing them into the line of fire of your duelists, Maskniz, and maximizing poke damage. With Penny and Groot holding the front line, your duelists punishing from above, and Invisible Woman controlling the battlefield, Domination Poke becomes a highly effective composition for both holding objectives and punishing overzealous opponents. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.